A WWE Crown Jewel, we saw disgusting injustice when Brock Lesnar was robbed during his Universal Championship match. I don't know how to cope with this. I might drink some alcohol. Or better yet, as my good friend Brock Lesnar said, milk is the best medicine.
Let's do this!
Even the farmer's milk is sour. Hashtag justice for Brock Lesnar. And now even though I'm devastated by the fact that Brock Lesnar got robbed and he's the rightful Universal Champion, I do think that was an amazing pay-per-view. At this point, we should honestly consider to put Crown Jewel in the same category as SummerSlam and WrestleMania, because this felt big, and I gotta be honest, about 80 or 90% of the stuff was really fucking good. Like almost everything. Almost everything. Goldberg actually didn't keep his promise. He didn't, well, game end Bobby Lashley. So during the next Raw, we may still hear
Bobby, I challenge you to a match, Bobby. Bobby, I lied to my son, Bobby. I gotta keep my promise. Bobby.
But like I've said, I was honestly surprised by the paper, and this is by far the best Crown Jewel or a, Saudi paper we ever saw. It didn't really feel like Vince McMahon's wet dream anymore. It was also interesting to see how a non-American crowd responds to some wrestlers, which is quite different. I'm gonna talk about that a little bit later, but overall, the crowd was also really good. They definitely missed wrestling, and politics aside, it's cool to see so many people being excited about pro wrestling. And how chill were those camels? With that being said, let's talk about WWE Crown Jewel 2021. The show kicked off in a massive way, with Edge versus Seth Rollins inside a Hell in a Cell match. I might be overhyping this, but I'm sure some of you felt the same way. This was honestly one of the best Hell in a Cell matches I have ever seen. They didn't even need to break the cage to make this match, well, make sense, to still make it into a great match. I mean, the whole point of a Hell in a Cell match is that they must, be kept inside. That's the whole point of a match. And they managed to make it into a great match without breaking the cage. I really appreciate that. I mean, that was pretty much the beginning of the match, and we already got one of the best spots of the year. And I always gotta praise, a Hell in a Cell match when, after so many Hell in a Cell matches, they still managed to make it unique and offered us new spots. And in this match, they basically used everything, and it lived up to the expectations. If this is the last Edge versus Seth Rollins match, it's exactly what it should look like. Just absolutely brutal. We also saw a tribute to Christian, tribute to Triple H. I absolutely love the ending of this match. Seth Rollins had a chain on his foot. He super kicked Edge. He wanted to do a curb stomp on the top of a steel chair, but Edge got him in the nuts. R.I.P. Seth Rollins cojones. Then Edge goes for a couple of super kicks. He went for some tool, did a crossface, and it was obvious that Seth Rollins was about to submit, but that wasn't enough for Edge. I mean, let's be fair, people. Seth Rollins invaded Edge's house and drank his orange juice. We saw a curb stomp on the steel chair. That was brutal, and Edge takes the W. He got emotional, and you can see that after the match, he actually talked with Seth Rollins. I love you almost as much as I love my children. That's what he said. What a way to kick off the show. And I know many people will have a problem with Edge winning this match, and like I've said, Seth Rollins needed that victory a lot more. I understand that, but at the end of the day, I don't think it made Seth Rollins look weak. I mean, he's a total heel, and it was a no disqualification match. After this kind of a storyline, it just kind of feels right that a babyface won. And at the end of the day, it's Edge. So this match definitely exceeded our expectations. We saw Mansoor versus Mustafa Ali. If Mansoor ever loses in Saudi Arabia, there should be no music. Absolutely no music, complete silence, because everybody would be in shock. So this was a nice little match, nothing special, nothing memorable. It wasn't bad by any means, but pretty predictable. Mansoor takes the W, of course he did. But what happened after the match was rather odd. We see a man with a mask, and he's walking really slowly. 5 minutes to get into the ring. That made me believe it's R-Truth. Obviously. because this is funny as hell. Turns out it was an Olympic silver medalist in men's karate from the 2020 Tokyo Olympics. And he kicked Mustafa in the head. Okay, I'm confused. Maybe it was Vince McMahon's wet dream after all. We saw RK Bro versus AJ Styles and Omos Raw Tag Team Championships match. This is vibes right here. And I gotta be honest, I don't think the match was bad by any means. It was pretty entertaining. But I was really disappointed because it didn't give us anything new. So after a pretty okay match, we see a catching RKO to AJ Styles, a floating bro, and that's basically it. RK Bro won the match. That's it. I honestly thought the only reason we're getting this match again is for Randy Orton to hit an RKO to Omos. It's like WrestleMania, do the big moment. Orton RKOing a big boy. That's big. So I was a little disappointed. We saw Zelina Vega versus Doudrop, Queen's Crown, and that was definitely the worst match of the night. That was really bad. It was really short. Zelina Vega won the match, which is great. I'm happy about that. But the whole Queen's Crown tournament was an absolute failure. It almost feels like every single match in the tournament, even the final match, was really rushed and WWE didn't really care. But I'm happy it's Zelina. We saw Goldberg versus Bobby Lashley. You know, it did feel like I already saw the match at SummerSlam. But you know, considering Goldberg's age and his ability in general, I gotta give this match some praise. It wasn't bad. Obviously, it was a spot fest, pretty much. Goldberg has to rely on these, but who's to say that it's wrong? Towards the end of the match, we saw the Hurt Business when Bobby Lashley actually wanted to leave.
Stop! Stop! I didn't kill you yet, Bobby! Bobby, I didn't kill you yet!
Obviously, Goldberg destroys these guys, and we see a spear off the stage through 2 tables. Are you a fan of Goldberg yet? WWE said. Look at all the cool shit Goldberg does. I gotta say, that was pretty awesome. I mean, I certainly didn't expect that. Goldberg with some extreme shit. Now that's something you don't see every day. Goldberg wins the match. It was a no-holds-barred match. I actually didn't know you can pin your opponent outside of the ring during a no-holds-barred match, but that actually makes a lot of sense. Now, I don't have any complaints about the match. I gotta say though, the result, wow. Like, seriously? What's the point of Goldberg winning at this point? What's the point? What does it actually mean? What does that even achieve? If Bobby Lashley would win that match, then we could have Bobby versus Lesnar. And Bobby would look like a complete monster, and you could treat him as, you know, not necessarily like Brock Lesnar, but one of the top, you know, big boys in the WWE. Now he just lost and it's never going to be the same. Then we saw King of the Ring finals, Xavier Woods versus Finn Bálor. The match was pretty good. You know, it wasn't anything special. I actually wanted a longer match. It did kind of feel like a match you would see on a random episode of Raw, if I'm being honest. Maybe it's because the match was between 2 baby faces, but it just really lacked something. Not once during this match I felt this vibe that I must win this and I can't lose. I bet on my left nutsack that I'm going to win this match. Maybe a little from Xavier Woods, but that was more like after the match. He's happy that he won. So we see the limit breaker elbow and Xavier Woods wins the match. He poses with the crown and that was a pretty great moment, and I'm sure all of the wrestling fans around the world were really happy about that. Great result, can't complain, but like I've said, what's the point of being the king of the ring? What's the point? Tell me. Then we saw Big E versus Drew McIntyre for the WWE Championship. A match that I wasn't really interested in that much for obvious reasons. It's very predictable. But I gotta say, this definitely exceeded my expectations. One of the best matches of the night. As predictable as it was, you know, that spot when Drew McIntyre hit Claymore out of nowhere actually got me. I was like, maybe there's a chance. It's Crown Jewel after all. But Big E still picked up the W, so he retains the championship as expected. Also, a pretty interesting thing about this match is that during the whole match, I'm sure 80% of the people, at least, were on Drew McIntyre's side. People were chanting for Drew Quite a lot. Then we saw Becky versus Sasha versus Bianca. All I gotta say, I'm very happy this was a lot longer than the previous women's match. Obviously, they were dressed in pajamas, but it is what it is. I get it. And there's not a lot to say about this match. It was as expected. A pretty solid match. We saw a small package by Lynch. She held onto the ropes and retained the championship. So this was a solid match, pretty predictable. Obviously, why would you take the championship away from Becky Lynch? That's about it. That was, as expected, a pretty good match. Finally, the WWE Universal Championship match. Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar. Okay, what a match. The crowd was absolutely wild during this one, and you can see both Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar really tried. It seems like Brock Lesnar, is kind of happy again to be in a wrestling ring, because previously we saw many Brock Lesnar's matches where he didn't really care and he just came for the paycheck, even with guys like Roman Reigns. But now, it's a lot different. Brock is a babyface, Roman is a heel. It's like I'm watching a completely different match. Reigns flying through the ropes was a pretty cool spot. We saw a bunch of near falls. Brock Lesnar did it in a 5 to Roman Reigns and hit the referee, so typical stuff. Paul Heyman threw the Universal Championship in the middle of the ring and said, you know what to do, but he didn't look at Brock Lesnar or Roman Reigns. Lesnar got the title from Roman Reigns, but we see super kicks from the Usos, shot to the head of the championship, and Roman Reigns retains. Paul Heyman looks confused, but you can't really tell what he's thinking, by looking at these facial expressions. Okay, so look. I don't mind the finish, but I'm not the biggest fan either. It basically didn't give us any answers whatsoever. If 2 weeks from now Paul Heyman would be like, yes, I was with Brock Lesnar all along, nobody would be surprised because he didn't actually tell us. It seems like Paul Heyman is actually with both of these guys and he can't pick. So WWE just found a way to make a big match without changing absolutely anything. Not only they didn't want to, make Paul Heyman choose, they also didn't want to make Brock Lesnar look weak, so we saw a lot of shenanigans. It was basically the finish of the match didn't change anything, didn't affect anything, maybe outside of Brock Lesnar wanting revenge, and hopefully that's the case because this is a match I definitely want to see again. So that was your crown jewel. Like I've said, a very good pay-per-view. Maybe the finish was a bit unfortunate, but the match itself was really, really good, and pretty much most of the matches, even Goldberg's match, was decent. I can't really complain. It was one of these, one crown jewel pay-per-view that was actually, a pay-per-view that made sense. So thank you for watching this video. Click that like button to grow your Coco Jumbo to the moon, the great one. Peace, love, and hugs. It's been a pleasure.